All right, everybody, welcome back. Sam's Army, episode 2.216. We got a lot to talk about this week. We're going to hit the headlines where it's all U.S. men's national team all the time. Gregg is back, and the team is good. So we'll get into that. Weekly What If, TST versus MLS. Around the world, we got Concacafing, UEFA Nations League, and some Chelsea discussions, and Bournemouth, actually. Stoppage time with Ivan Toney's best bets and everyone's favorite segment, GOAWs. Now it is time to welcome in this panel of beauties here with me this week, and we got a little extra beauty here. We'll go right into it, right off the bat. We got a special co-host returning. You guys will know him well. A lot of people used to know him as a Seattle Sounders and U.S. men's national team legend. Now they know him best as one of my teammates from Sneaky Fox FC. Brad Evans is back on the program. Great to have you. There it is. That shirt, I love it. I should have worn it myself. Have you recovered, mentally and or physically from the taxing week that was down in North Carolina?
No, it took me 5 days to mentally come back to life from that thing. I've never had more fun playing soccer in my entire life. And I've never been with a better, solid group of guys doing it at the same time. And I think that's what really made it special. And then obviously staying out till 3 o'clock in the morning in Raleigh doesn't hurt every night and getting away from your normal life. But man, we had a blast. And I just can't say enough good things about that tournament. From the party bus to everyone sitting down talking about their intentions for the tournament, and it really just got set off to a good tone. And then no expectations to win, and then all of a sudden you win 3 in a row, and you're like, okay, now we need ice tubs. Like, okay, guys, run into Home Depot to get it done. And you can go back and look on our roster and then just read all the Instagram posts and what it meant to everyone, right? All the fans can. And to see some of the things that I never thought that my favorite moment playing soccer would be after I retired from professional soccer was pretty much the sentiment being echoed by every single player that's not a current pro. So that's how much it meant. And yeah, it took me 5 days to come off of that high and get back to reality.
That's exactly it. I tried to put it into words, and I've tried several times, but I think you just did a better job of it right there. It was a special event, and I was honored and humbled to be a part of it, and can't wait to do it again next year where we'll bring home the million.
It's so good.
All right, now rounding out the triumvirate is actually another TST veteran, Mr. Mitchell Goulet, aka Overtime Mitch. So a little birdie told me that you got some travel plans in store. So where are you going this week?
I do. By the time you are all listening to this, I will be in Miami, hanging out with a recent two-time winner of the Nations League, Christian Pulisic. I can't tell you what it's for just yet, but you'll find out soon enough. I'm excited.
Nice. All I ask is if you get an answer from him on whether he knows about and especially appreciates the danglies. That's all I want.
I don't know what a natural point in conversation to bring that up is, but I'll figure it out.
It'll be tough, but I can trust you. I trust you'll figure it out. All right, headlines time. Like I said, U.S. men's national team. The news was coming hot and heavy this week. Biggest news of the week: a week in which we spanked Mexico in historic fashion and beat Canada to win a trophy. The biggest news was somehow off the field because reports leaked out mid-Mexico ass whooping that Gregg Berhalter was going to be confirmed or rehired as the U.S. Soccer head coach. U.S. Soccer then soon after basically confirmed it. And so there it is. Gregg Berhalter is back as the coach of the national team. Tyler and I actually did a quick knee-jerk reaction pod on Thursday night, sort of half in the bag while watching Mexico. So you can go listen to that if you want to get sort of my take really quickly after. Now we've had a few days to digest it, and we actually have somebody here with some authority who knows what he's talking about in Brad Evans. So let's dig into it a little bit more here, give it some thoughtful thoughts. There's a lot going on here. The timing is weird. I would argue the transparency has not been quite as much as I would personally like anyway. But let's start with you, Brad. What was your reaction to the news?
Yeah, I actually wasn't that surprised. I wasn't ready for it, but I wasn't that surprised that he was reintroduced as a head coach. I think anytime you see, two interim coaches, normally when there's going to be a new head coach that's going to be hired of some, grand proportion, there's always leaks somewhere around the world. And you just didn't hear about it. You heard a couple rumblings from, but they were nipped in the bud real quick. Nothing that really circulated. And all that in 6 months led me to believe that this was always going to happen. You get the continuity with Hudson and then with BJ, right? And that told me, okay, we're keeping things status quo until we make this announcement. Oftentimes, I think when something like this happens and comes out, you get a quote from the top that might say something like, oh, we're going to go in a different direction because we need a new culture with the team. We need a new style of play. We're going to try and really work towards this team getting to the next level in 3.5 years from now, or going into the Gold Cup or back into qualifications. And you didn't hear any of that. It was, we're going to do an internal investigation and we're going to make our decision from there, which tells me that it was already decided from within, but that US Soccer had to, I guess, put it out there that they were doing everything that they did to make sure that nothing happened that they deemed incredibly inappropriate. Although at the time, 20, 30 years ago, it was inappropriate. So getting the full story, it kind of led me to believe that it was always going to be this way. Anytime anybody asked me, I didn't think that they were just going to flip the script and go a different direction, especially with, I think, a good performance in the World Cup with a really young group of players. Whatever Gregg is doing is it's working and it has the players bought in. And I think every player is echoing that sentiment throughout. I mean, even talking with Christian, he's like, hey, did you ever play for Gregg? And I was like, no, I only played against him. But all I remember was on the field, he was the coach on the field, right? He was always the guy tactically that was in tune. He was making adjustments on the fly. He was really intense. And then Christian echoes that and says, dude, this guy is crazy in terms of tactics and training sessions. And he's just different level. And so to hear that from Christian and Jordan and, and other players too, I've talked with Aaron Long and, these guys know a good coach when it comes around. And I think that this was always going to happen. So hopefully, and the proof is in the pudding, because here comes the Gold Cup right around the corner. And if this group doesn't get a result, then questions, of course, are always going to be asked around a Gold Cup, even though there's, not too much riding on the line in that tournament, other than bragging rights, in my opinion. That can this team get it done now, having him back in the fold? What does it look like when Gregg walks into the first meeting? What is that first speech like? I think that's going to really be the emphasis in that first press conference. That's going to be the first question. How do you get back into a rhythm? And I think if anyone can do it, then Gregg can.
Okay. And so reading between the lines, you're okay with this. You don't.
Yeah. I'm good with it. I think it probably wouldn't have been my first choice, but I'm not going to look at this and crush it, because I just don't see another option other than, I don't think BJ's ready to fully take over this team and be that guy under a super high pressure. There's always that 1 or 2 games where you get a new head coach and that team is always on the up and up, no matter who it is. We could play Chivas USA. They hired a new coach. All of a sudden, this team, same players, come out and they're up 1-0, 2-0 in Seattle. I don't think that BJ could have sustained it for as long as we would have wanted him to find a new head coach that was going to push us into the qualification rounds once we start hitting those. So right now, it's what we're dealt, and yeah, it is what it is right now.
It's what it is. That's usually my answer to pretty much everything in the world. Listen, there were a lot of questions. We got a lot of questions on Instagram. I'll try and weave them in here and there. A lot of them, including from my guys, Footy Travelers on Instagram, as I said, question the timing. of this, like, so you did the investigation, so I understand that, right? You had to have Berhalter take a step back. The news leaking now, Brad, you said you were surprised. I think everybody was surprised. Mitch, do you have any thoughts on sort of what the timing, like, that was this a complete, like, I don't know, I don't have an explanation for why now.
I don't think this timing was intentional at all. I think it was a product of the Club America offer that he got. I think it was leaks. The fact that it came out at like halftime of the Mexico game
So
is
sloppy.
absurd. But if you're going to leak information, do it at a tactical time, I suppose. But I don't think it was intentional, the timing that it came out. It does throw a weird wrench into the momentum that team had. Good on them for continuing the journey, and then going forth into the final against Canada and winning. We'll talk about that later. But from my understanding, he is not going to coach in the Gold Cup as well.
That's what
So
I don't understand that, bro. What do you think about that?
yeah,
Like the fact that they named him coach. He's already coach. He knows the team. He knows the guys. Why would he not coach? I understand not the Nations League because they were basically halfway through it at that point.
yeah.
Why not
Yeah,
Gold Cup?
I don't know the answer to that, and I can guarantee you that these guys on the team already knew that he was going to be announced, head coach long
Yep.
before this happened. So either someone told somebody something and they were getting ahead of it, so that someone leaked it somewhere. But this is what happens with communications departments, anyways. They'll tell certain people to get the news out there. Like that's just how the whole game works. It's not like, oh, we're only going to tell Fox Soccer so that they get the information. It goes around and around and around to every outlet. So I don't understand not coaching in the Gold Cup. I just feel like if you're going to do it, get back out there and get on the field and get with the group of guys and see how it goes from there. But yeah, I guess I just don't understand that one. Like if you're going to be the coach, then you're the coach and get out there. I don't understand. You've been out of it for 6 months now. Why you wouldn't be on the field with the guys? And if I was going to be renamed the coach, I'd be like, well, shit, I'm getting right back out there and getting back to business because I know what I did, in my mind, if I'm Gregg, like I'm good. Like I'm ready to get out there. Yeah. Did we flub all the communication back during the World Cup? Did I mess up with Gio? Did I do this? Look, no coach is perfect. And this is his time for, if you want to call it redemption, because Gio's going to be in the mix from here on out, no matter what. So maybe that's your time to step back in and say, okay, I'm back in the mix. I'm here. I'm ready to work. Whatever this team needs from me, that's what I'm here for, right? I'm here to win games, but I'm also here to get this thing right.
Yeah.
There seems to be a need for a new foundation of trust in this team. And the way you build that is with camp and with games and with training sessions. And if we're giving, I presume it's going to be BJ Callahan, the Gold Cup roster, he's going to continue on with what he's been doing, which has been unapologetically winning. Good on him. But with Gregg just sitting on the sidelines, it's like, what's the purpose of this? And I'm really not ready for the dialogue online when we inevitably do well in the Gold Cup. And it's like, well, fuck it. We might as well just stick with BJ. Like, I don't want to hear any of that. And I want to nip that in the bud right now because this has already been decided. But if you're the Federation, let's rip that Band-Aid off right now. Let's get to healing right now. And let's give him as much of a runway as possible before these qualifiers to build a foundation with these players.
Yeah, you just don't want to do the Jurgen way where it was, taking karate classes or finance classes to build that trust. Because once that happened, you had, Michael lost interest about, wait, I've been dealing with my finances since I was 19 years old. I'm taking a class in fucking Panama right now to learn how to invest my money. So, I hope that Gregg is smart enough to understand he doesn't need to go to a ropes course to build these guys' trust. Like you said, it's done through training. It's there early. It's, owning up to your mistakes on how he communicated. That's got to be the first thing said in front of the group. And it can't be half-assed like Gio's in front of the group. It's got to be with intent. It's got to be intentional. And it's got to be, I'm here to work, right?
And so with that, basically, but my next question was going to be, how does Berhalter sort of fix his relationship with players, specifically Gio? You basically just laid it out right there, right? It's just communication, be a man, admit you fucked up, because he absolutely did, in airing the dirty laundry, which I still can't wrap my head around that part. Anyway, basically, you as a player, you think that Gio and Gregg can get to a place where they'll be fine?
I don't know. And I'm not sure that it really matters at the end of the day. I think you can have one player on a team that doesn't really jive with a coach, as long as the rest of the guys are there to lift him up. I've been part of teams where, 2013 in Seattle, we had a group of guys that were commiserating all the time. And then all of a sudden by the end, it was one or two guys. And then all of a sudden by the end of the year, the team wasn't doing great, snuck into the playoffs. And you're noticing like August, there's three guys in that group, and then someone else gets injured. Now there's four guys in that group, and five and six. And the team lost respect for Ziggy at that time. And then those guys had already lost the respect for Zig at that time too, in the coaching staff, because of whatever it was, miscommunication or not bringing guys in and having that talks with them. So you can have one of those guys on a team. I really do think that, but you cannot have 4, 5, and 6. So if Gregg is smart, he just has to be open and honest with Gio. If Gio accepts it or not, that's on him. He can't control what Gio thinks and does. The biggest thing as a player is now Gregg, if Gio's playing well, then he needs to play. That's the biggest thing. And that's how you as a player can I guess retrust your coach that he has your best interest at heart. And that's pretty much the only way. But I mean, we can sit here all day, and as a young player, you don't want to be in meetings with your coach. You're just like, I don't want to talk to that guy, because I'm sure Gio's fresh in his mind what just happened. But as a veteran player looking back, it's shit happens. And if you want a long career with the U.S. team, and now Gregg is here, then you need to be now not a 20-year-old kid. You've got to have the brain and maturity of a veteran to wear one on the chin and say, okay, I don't need to be best friends with the coach. I just need to be here for the guys on the field. That's not, the coach is there to make some decisions. And then if he's not starting and Gregg is like, oh, I don't think he's good enough or whatever. Okay, then you have that conversation. So I think this could go in Gio's favor if he just keeps a cool head.
Which seems to be, it seems to be the way he's going, right? He's been pretty quiet. He's obviously sort of focused on his game, because he was playing well with Borussia Dortmund and came out and absolutely killed it in the window here. So it seems like, things are headed
he's halfway
in the right direction.
to being in a boy band with the hair. All he needs is like the earring and
him and Scally.
So he's on. Maybe he just needed a hair change to get a little oomph going into this tournament. But I'll tell you what, he played unbelievable these past couple games.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to get into that in just a second. So quickly, I have a gripe with the sort of the process. I don't really understand how we got here. I wish Crocker would come out and just be a little more transparent with, say, I mean, a lot of people asked me on Instagram, like, who were the other candidates? How many were there? That sort of thing. We don't know. Like, we just don't really know. Was it the fact that we just don't have the money to pay those top guys? Were they just not interested? Like, I don't know. I don't know what the situation is there. And I don't think anybody outside of, a small group probably do. But, I guess long story short, I'm not, as you said, I'm not overwhelmed by the move, but listen, I've seen so much hate online. It's crazy. I was talking to somebody, I was exchanging tweets with somebody, and I asked them, if he won the World Cup in 2026, would he still be a shitty coach? And the guy was like, yeah, because they would have won it, despite him, not because of him. And I'm just like, dude, you got to get some perspective here. Like,
that's on you for fighting with people on the internet, but
I don't do it often. I've taken a big step back from Twitter, but man,
I think a lot go. I mean, how many times have we seen, these players get interviewed, current players, and how many times have they said, anything bad about his coaching style or the way that they've lined up tactically?
Yeah.
Not too often. So, I mean, everyone can have their opinion and can gripe and complain. That's fine. But usually stuff starts to rumble in the locker rooms before you hear of anything on the outside. And I mean, knowing these guys, I haven't heard anything from, you know, current guys on that team where it's been like, man, we need to change. You know, with Jurgen, it was, we need to change, we need to change. And even in, you know, when they go back to their club teams getting interviewed, they're saying, you know, we need to change, we need to change. Um, and so you start to hear it before it even happens. And then we're not trusting the players now, if that's the gripe. Also, we don't trust the coach, and then we also don't trust the players enough to know what is tactically sound or what is technically sound players or style of play. And I don't think that's the case, because all these guys play for top club teams in the world at this point. I think you can say that when it was all MLS guys, but I don't think you can say that now.
Right. I mean, look at how many European-based guys were basically carrying the load in these Nation League games. Quickly, though, on that, there were a lot of players, as you said, came out publicly before the announcement, and you know, were like Pulisic, Weah, come to mind right off the bat. Like, we're basically saying that they wanted Berhalter back. As a former player, how much of that do you like subscribe or ascribe to them, like feeling the need to basically back a coach, whether they believe it or not? And or is that like, you know what, if they come out and they put their sort of name out there and put their name on the line, they mean that, like, that's, they want this guy back.
Yeah, I do. So I'm trying to think back to my cycle. If Clint had come out and said, I do or don't want that player, I think or coach, I think everyone takes that as gospel. He was a proven player for, you know, a decade in Europe, and I think he knows what a good coach is and what isn't. Now, if I'm a mid-tier player like myself, who was always fighting for a spot, and someone asked me that question, I would probably say, oh yeah, he should come back, right? Because I want what ultimately is probably best for me at the moment, and not for the team to a certain extent.
Sure.
My career window might be, you know, 4 or 5 games extra, and that national team's next coach might be there for 8 or 10 years. So for me, it was kind of like a saving grace. Now for Roldan to come out at that time and say, oh, I think there should be a change, that probably speaks more to the situation than Christian saying, I think he should stay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely does. I mean, that's
I just think that actually carries more weight, because Christian is now sacrificing his potential future with the US team in saying, and knowing that probably this coach is coming back, but saying, no, we really need to change. Like, he wasn't what we needed. He's not what we want. Right. So I didn't hear any of that. All I heard was the top players saying, yeah, he should stay. He's good tactically. We enjoy playing under him. He provides competitive environments for us to excel. He's, you know, gone after the guys in Europe that should be on this team that are dual citizens or Central America, whatever it is. So I think that I don't see those as false sentiments from those big players saying that, Pulisic and Weah.
Okay. Last thing before we move to Mexico. So, you know, people
moving to Mexico.
I wish if I could move to Puerto Vallarta tomorrow, I would absolutely would. Before we move to the Mexico game, though, you know, Copa America, to me, that's huge, right? This is not Berhalter. If there's a saving grace to all the haters out there, and there's a lot of haters, it's that Gregg Berhalter doesn't necessarily coach us at the World Cup. If you're looking for something to hang, you know, your hat on, whatever. I'm not looking at it that way. I'm an optimist. I'll get on board with this somehow. But what do we need to do at Copa America to, you know, to be successful? Or is there a line that, like, if we're below that, we got to look for a change? What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, well, the team has to make it out of the group for sure. I don't think US Soccer is sitting here saying, if this team doesn't make it out of a group, that all is lost for this team. I think our style of play is more fitting to playing European countries anyways. And this is going to be a crazy, difficult tournament. Is it in Ecuador?
No. I think it's going to be in the US.
Is it going to be in the
I
US?
think so. I'm pretty sure it's going to be. I don't know if they've said anything, officially, but it sounds like they're heading towards the US, and we'll use it as basically like a pre-World Cup training, practice
I mean, this
tournament.
is it's going to be wild to be in this tournament. But anyways, so 16 teams, right, in the mix, and so to make it out of a group would be massive in this tournament. And not only that, to play well. And if you make it out of the group, play well, and you lose the first round, then I think I think it's okay. As long as the team is playing well and you're not going in getting shell shocked every single game, I think it's okay. I don't think U.S. Soccer is going to make a decision in two years before the World Cup and try to completely flip the script on this U.S. team. I just don't think that's going to happen. There is not enough time to get these guys together to implement what a head coach wants to do 2 years before a World Cup, especially in the thick of World Cup qualifying. You really risk damaging this group of guys in what they've built over the last 4.5 years now, 4 years, in saying, okay, what you did for us wasn't good enough. You're not playing well enough now. We don't trust that you're going to be good enough to, well, they're going to go to the World Cup anyways, but to do well in the World Cup or in, qualifying rounds. So I don't think that this tournament has too much weight on hiring a new coach or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Barring,
go ahead, Mitch.
barring like a dramatic failure or another dramatic event within the camp, I don't see us changing head coaches before the World Cup again. I know that is like a bit of a saving grace for the haters that you speak of, that, oh well, it's not locked in that he'll coach in 2026. He's coaching in 2026. Like, let's all take our medicine now and just acknowledge that. I also don't really think there's a threshold, like a concrete threshold of success or failure at this Copa America. It's going to be reflected in the performances. We should, like Brad said, we should get out of the group. But it's gonna be based on, or people's reactions are going to be based on what we look like out there. We can also acknowledge again what Brad said, that we are more suited to play against European teams, as most of our starters play over in Europe and not in Concacaf nations. But we've shown that we are capable of playing Concacaf ball. It's a completely different sport half the time, but we have guys that can play that way. And I think that's one of the most exciting things for me about this team is like the versatility that we have. We have depth at positions that other countries don't. So I think we should do well at this Copa America. Do I expect us to win it?
Question.
Maybe.
Is
Yeah.
Copa America harder than the World Cup?
Oh, oh,
Well,
I'm tempted. Like, I don't want to say I'm tempted to say yes, but like,
You got to think about it, right?
yeah, you do.
I would have said 10, 15, 20 years ago, yes, because I feel like the field of the World Cup is a little more watered down. Sort of the lower teams weren't up to snuff, whereas everybody in Copa America who makes it there is top notch. But I feel like number one, well, so now I'm going to contradict myself because I feel like the level has gone up everywhere around the world, but at the same time, we're about to expand the World Cup to 48. So maybe, it sort
So
of
maybe not, right?
waters it down again. So I'm going to go with the Copa America being tougher.
I'd say the Copa America is tighter. You can see a 6-0 blowout in the group stage game of a World Cup. You
Yeah.
will not see a 6-0 game in Copa America. You won't see that type of discrepancy. It'll be like 3 at most.
Yeah, well, Mexico is going to be playing there. So
Yeah. All right. So we'll pump the brakes off Mexico again. But like, other than that, everything else is going to be close,
let's move not to Mexico, but to the Mexico game. So we'll get the Mexico and the Canada game. So listen, 3-0 thrashing of Mexico. I mean, this was just so much fun. It was obviously, there was some mixed emotions there because there was the leak of the Berhalter news and everybody's like, what's going on here? So it was sort of surreal to watch this team just play so well, and then sort of have this off the field stuff sort of interfering with my enjoyment of that. And unfortunately, that's really what it was. I was sort of like I wasn't fully enjoying the ass whipping on TV. But Brad, who or what stood out to you from that 3-0 win?
Yeah, well, what stood out to me? I mean, just the overall performance, I think in both games, especially the Mexico game. I mean, it was a pure, you're playing in Vegas, you know you're going to be outnumbered with fans once again. Uh,
Always.
I just remember my Gold Cups going to, a final in the Meadowlands, and 95,000 Mexican fans and maybe 5,000 US fans. My friends having to leave because bags of piss are being thrown off the second balcony. And it was the hardest environment I've ever played. And then Rose Bowl, playing in that one-off game against Mexico, 110,000 again, and being just overwhelmed with green and red, and wondering, is this the time where everything kind of flips? And it just still continues to be the incredible turnout of support for the Mexican national team here. And then to see these guys put on the hard hats and just get to work and play really, really attractive soccer and finish their chances. They played like they had a chip on their shoulder, and that is what wins you championships, and what elevates you to the next level. And I think Reina was fantastic, and I think Christian was fantastic once again. And I don't think you're going to see this guy slow down anytime soon. He's going to be the captain of this team for the next, 8 to 10 years. There's absolutely no reason why he shouldn't be. I mean, he's only going to continue to get stronger and smarter and faster. And that's dangerous for the rest of our little corner of the world. But also, any team that he goes to next, I think he's ready for that challenge, and he just needs a new environment to flourish. And it's clear to me that when he's the man on a team, he plays better than when he's just a role player. Mm-hmm. And I think he needs to find a team where he might be that, one or two where he's relied on. And I think he really thrives in pressure situations, a la the World Cup. Through qualifying, he was the man. And now, these past two games, he can put a team on his back. When you're a young player and you go to, a team like Chelsea, it's easy to pass the responsibility and say, okay, these guys don't like me and I'm not of use. But when you go to a mid-table team in the Premier League and you're relied on, like Clint was, it changes your character and changes who you are as a player and can give you that extra fight. And that translates to the national team as well. And I think that's what you're going to see with him, because he obviously is talented enough. And then Reina to be back in the mix and to show that, he's the top quality player that we know he can be. He wants the responsibility. So I get his frustration with the situation, and, just fantastic in both performance. And to see the demise of Mexico and how they've fallen is just, I mean, it's actually mind blowing, to be honest, because, they were the benchmark in our region for so long. It was so hard to go play in Mexico, to get a result down there. And now year after year, you're seeing MLS teams get results in Mexico, and it's not that big, and they're always going to win in the US. That's now a guarantee. You weren't even seeing that before. And you slowly saw that over the last 10 years, just that slow turn of the dial, where both MLS and the national team have just, not leaps and bounds, because they're still a good team, but man, just dominance. And it's been really fun to watch and be a part of at the same time. I always knew it was coming. Everyone did when you talked about it. We know it was going to be a slow burn, and now that it's here, it just feels like it's fire. And I don't think we're going to go back anytime soon. And I think Mexico and that head of their federation, they're spinning their heads wondering what the fuck is going on, right?
I mean,
what did we do wrong? What did we do wrong?
Yeah. It's Mexico will be back. I think that they are in a, it's cyclical, right? And they are in a bad spot right now. That was the most dominant performance I've ever seen against Mexico. I mean, it was just fun to watch. I was impressed. I was excited. I was slightly confused and distracted with what was going on off the field, but it was just so much fun to watch. Just from the playing perspective, guys like Anthony Robinson had a great game, I thought. Gio, you already mentioned. Pulisic was just a force, a beast. Even after when he missed that early one, he dribbled three guys and then had basically a lot of net to shoot at, put it over. I was like, oh no, is it going to be that kind of game? Nope, he came right back. He was a beast out there. One thing that really I liked, we took it a little too far, but when who was it? Montez, I believe, who basically he got a red card for it. He took down Balogun
Yeah.
with a really sort of just unnecessary late, kick.
That was only a yellow. You talking about the form tackle there?
No, when he kicked Balogun, when he kicked,
Oh, when he kicked him. Yes, yes, yes. Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And so we went too far, but McKennie went after him. Yunus Musa went after him.
Yep.
Some other guys were in the mix. Obviously, McKennie probably took it a little too far. I thought that red card was kind of weak. He was getting surrounded and manhandled by like 15 guys at the time. Didn't really like that red card. Dest was just he was out there just looking for something. He wanted to get after it. He obviously got into it a little bit too much as well. Getting red cards is too much. You got to know where that line is. But in that context, I kind of liked it. I did. I kind of liked
it. Just adds to the whole lore of the thing, right?
I love it. I love it.
But you rarely see. For Mexicans, there's always a game within a game, and they're usually the masters of the game within a game. Whether it was Cuauhtemoc Blanco, whoever it was, you play Chicago Fire, you knew that you had a game in Bridgeview, but you also knew you had a game against Blanco. Like that's just how it worked. Any high quality Mexican player, they're always the savviest at time wasting, at getting away with everything, at pinching, at biting, at I'll give you the first hard one because I know you're going to retaliate right away and I'm going to make a meal of it. They're the best. And Americans are the worst at it. We're the worst. That's just bottom line. We play such a fair game all the time. We want to be those guys, right? We want to get the fair play award at the end of the tournament most of the time. So, but rarely do you see Americans get the US guys get inside of their head as much as they did that game. And that tells you the state of that team right now. They could have shaken that off and been like, okay, we played well, but that wasn't the case. They knew they got dominated. Was the referee the best? No. I mean, I've had him before a million times. But I think that's the truest telling thing is when they start to really lose their head. And but again, there's a game within a game. It should have been man up, man up, man up too. But they'll make a meal out of it. If I'm going to get a red card, then I'm going to try to do everything. I'm going to push you over to our bench and you're going to do something stupid. Like that's the game within the game.
Yeah.
And we fell for it, but an iconic shot for Weston McKennie with his jersey ripped.
Oh, it was amazing.
Pretty legendary.
Put that in the museum right now, that jersey.
The archives.
And the pictures of him walking around kissing the badge while he's basically got it hanging off of his body. Mexican fans, by the way, I love Mexican fans. They're so passionate. We gotta get this, cup throwing, beer throwing thing under and the chant. We gotta get this under control. I don't know what it's gonna take, if it's gonna take point deductions or what, but it's too much at this point. I love
point deductions aren't going to matter because they're going to get hammered. Every fan just wants to get hammered. Point deductions go well out the window. If you're losing 3-0, you don't give a shit. You're just getting drunk and you're going to not care about your team losing an extra point in the standings. The next morning you will.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Not during the
game. Let's see. Anything stand out to you, Mitch? Anybody? Anything?
I echo everything Brad was saying. Touches looked sharp and purposeful everywhere. Off-ball movement looked better than it has in the past. I love having healthy center backs, healthy first-choice center backs. Oh, it is just a damn treat to watch them back there work. Like you said, Anthony Robinson really impressed me in this game and the Canada game as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man, I don't know. It was a fun one to watch because in my heart, I knew those red cards weren't gonna affect the score line. And so I could kind of relish in the emotional effectiveness of them, and just to see, like you said, Weston parading around, kissing the badge with a ripped shirt like a toga off of his shoulder. That's the shit they build statues about, man. That stuff was awesome. Seeing the way our guys reacted to what Brad was saying, that game within the game, and kind of watching them come together to play that game within the game as opposed to playing it individually, where you there's always going to be one defender that can get in your ear, but if you're fighting for the guy next to you and the guy next to you is fighting for the other guy next to you, then something the defender said isn't going to bother you all that much, especially if you go look up at the scoreboard and it's 2-3-0. So it was a real fun game to watch. You mentioned a bit of confusion with the news leaking at halftime. That's just the U.S. men's national team fan experience. We're all used to it by now. But that was a fun one.
Got to keep your head on the swivel around here.
Yeah,
that's for damn
always.
sure. Now the U.S. men's game against Canada on Sunday night, we were without Dest for the red card, without McKennie for the red card, we were without Miles Robinson with a knock, and of course, long-term Tyler Adams is still out. So we're missing 4 starters there.
Yep.
And yet Canada had a few more looks than Mexico did, I thought, but none were great. And, the defense stood up. Turner, another clean sheet. I was just like pleasantly surprised that it went exactly how I kind of would have guessed. And I kind of would have hoped, obviously, as well. What about you, Brad? What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest threat for Canada is Alphonso Davies, and he's the guy where you never want to see him on the team sheet when the coach writes the names up on the board. And when he's not there, you take a deep breath. And when he is there, you take some oxygen because you're going to be under the gun. And I thought Canada was going to be better on the day. I think they looked out of sorts. No real direction. I think they're still relying on that little too much from the passion of the World Cup and not tactically savvy team that the U.S. was well prepared for, and obviously more tactically set to win that game. Balogun's goal was something of just class. I mean, if you slow that down, I mean, that's what you want from a striker. I'm going to point where I want the ball, you play it there, and I'm going to fucking bang it in the back of the net. Yep. And his shove of the defender is just, you don't see that too often. To be honest, you really don't. You usually see someone either try to get a foot in and maybe draw a penalty if it's not a clear shot, but his ability to point, I know where I'm going, I know where the ball's going. Defender's thinking he might make a play, but then all of a sudden I feel that arm on me. I'm off balance now. I can't slide. I'm going to commit a pen. So he's in full control of that entire situation. And that was just pure class to me. And that he showed what he can do and why he's now going to be a starter for this team, I think. And that was really fun to watch. And for someone to get their first cap a couple nights before and then to score their first goal in their second game that's pretty cool. But then to see the team just close it out and, you score 2 goals and Matt Turner he's just class. And if I've got that guy behind me, I'm not worried about much in a game. I'll let a team shoot from, 18 to 30 yards and I won't even move. And the difference is when you play with like Casey Keller, Tim Howard, sometimes Brad Guzan was a little bit more chill, but if any shot was taken from, 18 to 30 yards, they're screaming at you like, press, you gotta, whatever, block the shot or don't let them shoot. Matt Turner's so composed. He's like, I'll handle anything outside the box. You guys do what you need to do in the 18. Let me handle the rest. Because his positioning is so good and he's so big and he's explosive that he's not concerned. And so I think our center backs really just have the job of saying, okay, anything inside the box we'll take care of, and we'll make your job as easy as possible. And you handle everything that's going to come in from distance. And he does that. And that's all you can ask for. If I have to hear another goalie yell at me as a center back for a guy taking a shot from 25 yards and it goes, 7 yards over, it's like, what are you guys doing? Relax.
It's mad. Fun. They're so mad all the time. It's because they got so much energy because they just stand there all day. Listen, Turner as a shot stopper is incredible. The guy is just an incredible shot stopper. Let's see. Oh, you mentioned Balogun. So Doug Krefman asked, is Balogun the most talented striker in U.S. men's national team history? That's a tough question.
On the roster right now, yeah. History? No.
History?
No.
That's tough.
No, that's held by a couple other people.
You could look at it different. You could say maybe his ceiling is higher than anybody we've ever had. Maybe that's true. I've said this before. Every time Balogun comes up, and I will say I was impressed with the 2 games that I saw him play against Mexico and especially Canada. But Pepe, is still, let's not forget about Ricardo Pepi, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like, it was great to see him get out there, score a goal against Mexico. That had to feel really nice. His post-game remarks, when he sort of got surprised allegedly by the question from Jenny Chu about, Berhalter's being named the coach. It was an interesting response that he had. It's like, I don't know what's going on. I've just, it's the first time I ever heard like, you sure about that? But no, point being, let's not forget about Pepe. I know that Paligan's going to get all the praise and a lot of attention, and he deserves it because the guy is class. But let's not forget about Pepe. I think he's still right in the mix. Quickly on the Canada US game, I think the low key heroes of that game might have been Scally and Aronson for just completely marking Alfonso Davies out of the game. Like, they had him. They basically, like, listen, it took two guys. Alfonso Davies is a serious player, and Aronson did not do like much going forward. And I saw some people trying to get on him, on of course on Twitter. But you got to sort of take it in context. He had a role to play, and that was
it's called tactics.
right. Locked. These
So
are the same
either
people
learn
that
them or watch more soccer.
it's the same people who say Gregg Berhalter doesn't know tactics and all this stuff.
I mean, it's the same exact role I had with the Sounders. At 4-4-2, we played against the Galaxy. My job was to help DeAndre with Donovan. If we could neutralize Landon when he played on the left, then my job was done. I didn't have to score a goal or have 3 assists or 10 crosses. That was my job. And if we won the game, then fucking we got 3 points. I don't understand. What else do you want from him? Do you want him to impose himself offensively and shut down the best player on the field?
Yeah.
Like, it's not possible. Yes, it is not possible, guys.
It's just Twitter, a microcosm of Twitter. Well, yeah, he didn't score a goal, even though he helped shut down, their most, best player. Now let's take a more holistic look at this window. Does Berhalter deserve credit for the impressive wins by a manager who, basically, supposedly just kind of continued on with what he was doing? Or did the free-flowing, dare I say, fun performances that the team had out there, especially going forward, which, Gregg has been criticized for in the past, was that sort of an indictment that maybe, Gregg's more structured approach is perhaps, I don't know, stilting, just sort of strangling the team a little bit? What do you think, Brad?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the groundwork for what Gregg has laid is still within this team. I think tactically they are playing a very similar way. I think they have a sprinkle of a couple players that have come into their own in the last, especially the end of last season, that have allowed this team to play confident and a bit more free flowing. The pressure of a World Cup is not there. This is a different tournament. I don't think the stakes are as high. So as a player, you're saying, okay, I can take this chance here. And if it doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. It's also not the end of the world because we have no head coach that's permanently going to make the decisions. So I can make a mistake or two and play more free flowing because the pressure of me maybe making a mistake isn't going to get dinged like it would if I had a Jurgen or a Berhalter in the seat. So I think there's, the mental side to that as well. Yeah, Gregg is very structured for sure. And maybe this is a chance for him to take a look and say, okay, what has this team been doing that maybe wasn't there before, and why is it happening? So those are all questions that he can ask himself, which is good. Take this time to learn and reflect. And I mean, he's going to he probably already is talking to everyone on that coaching staff. What are you guys doing in training? What did the guys like? What's the communication like? So he has a pulse on the team. Now it's a matter of, can he elevate it to the next level? And that'll be his next challenge.
Well, one more question here. Actually, maybe just a couple quick ones before we really run through the rest of, what we got on the outline here. An important question. Justin Gillis asked this: when Adams comes back, what does the midfield look like? This is the question for this team. And let me say this: this is not a bad thing. This is a luxury. This is a great thing that we're having this, right? This is a great problem to have. But the problem is we got 4 guys. I'm putting Weah as a forward on the wing, and I'm putting Pulisic on the wing. So we have 4 guys in my mind for 3 spots. You got Musa, you got McKennie, you got Adams. and you got Reyna. And the way Reyna played in those 2 games, I do not know how you keep him off the field. So three spots, 4 players. What do you think, Mitch?
I think this injury afforded BJ Callahan with the luxury of not having to make a decision there, which ended up being, the best decision he could have made. Going forward, though, you're right. Gio Reyna simply cannot start on the bench. He's a cam through and through, and that's where he's most effective. He needs to start. Weston McKennie is your emotional and tactical leader out there. Tyler Adams is your most experienced 6. I love what Yunus Musa provides, but I think that is taking the lesser of 2 evils by putting him, unfortunately, on the bench and starting Adams, McKennie, and Reyna. No part of me wants to put Yunus Musa on the bench because I love what he provides. He can go forward, he can carry the ball. He's a dog off the ball, wins duels in the air. Like he does just about everything that you can ask from him, which is why I feel so bad saying all this. But I think our best bet going forward is with Adams, McKennie, and Reyna.
Yeah, what a luxury to have right now. I mean, very very rarely does, are all 4 of those guys going to be 100% healthy.
Yeah,
sure.
These things always sort themselves out. But yeah, I'd agree. Right now, I do Adams, McKennie, and Reyna. And as a coach, you're saying, guys, I got 4 guys for 3 spots. I want you to fucking battle every single day and show me which one of you is going to play. And sometimes guys train better than they play in games. So that's a hard one to kind of navigate as a coach. Someone can be on in training, but just in games, they're just not clicking with the group. So those decisions kind of air themselves out with practice games and things like that. When you sit down and watch video, like, hey, why didn't you see this? Or he saw this, why didn't you see it? Things like that. And then there's the other way where some guys are not good in training, like Guige from Columbus. I mean, in training, that guy walked every single day. But then in games, he was the best player on the field. He was an MVP, had 19 assists. So that's the tough part about being a coach, is making those decisions. I mean, at some point, if those guys are all playing really good, do you have the option to play a 3-4-3 and see kind of how that shakes out and get all 4 of those guys on the same field and push Christian and Weah higher up the field? I don't know in today's modern game if that could really come off, but something to kind of think about as the team moves forward.
That's fair.
And
yeah.
to kind of hop off that dynamic that you were saying with, players push each other in training, I'd love to see that with Pepi and Balogun too, because I don't think it is clear cut. Okay, Flo is our starter now. Pepi, we'll see you later. Sam, you bring up a great point. We cannot forget about Ricardo Pepi. He scored in that game against Mexico, and he looked real good when he came out there with fresh legs. I think Balogun provides something far more dynamic in that final third. His movement and the issues that he causes just being around defenders is not like what Pepi causes. But Pepi provides something different. I think he's a little better in the air. He's a bit more of a poacher, and Balogun can make his own chances. So I would really love to see those 2 push each other to not win a starting spot and that 60th minute substitution spot, but rather work together towards it. I know that's a really idealistic way of thinking about how players earn spots, but it would be really, really nice to see those 2 work in tandem as a striker duo while one is off the field. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Or I'll say maybe in a crazy, weird universe, we actually play 2 strikers at once. It used to be a thing. That used to be a thing. I know that people don't believe it,
They used to call it a partnership, right?
Yeah. Is one of my pet peeves
right?
is the fact that nobody plays the 2 strikers anymore. But anyway,
if we could fit 2 strikers and then 4 midfielders, 2 wings as well, and then let's go 4 at the back, I think we'd be golden.
Amazing. I don't know where you came up with that. I like it. All right, let's move along. We got so many other questions, but we got to keep this train on the tracks. Quickly, it is weekly what if time before we hit the round of world or round the world segment. This one is mostly for one of us who it'll be obvious. Weekly what if. This is a hypothetical, completely hypothetical. Would you rather win the TST 7v7 tournament or a supporters shield?
Huh. TST all day.
Okay, good answer.
I have never celebrated, well, after MLS Cup, the first and second one, celebrated that hard. But since then, or any other time, I never celebrated like that when I won a supporter shield. I was like, oh my God, thank God it's the end of the season. Fucking hell.
Let's get to
Uh,
playoffs.
and I think for winning the supporter shield, I think you get per person about $3,500 after taxes. So you're telling me I could win a TST tournament, $1 million for what, 16 players, half the roster size of an MLS team? I'm taking that all day, dude.
Easy. You just do the math on that one.
I just went under a house renovation. I'm thinking economically now. I'm not thinking about the fans anymore.
The kitchen counter ain't gonna pay for itself.
That's right.
One last question about the this is TST and US men's national team related. Those guys were kind of getting after it after that the Canada game. I don't know if you saw all the Instagram posts, the Instagram live that Balogun was doing.
Oh yeah.
They were getting after it.
Good.
There were some. I'm not going to throw out names, but maybe there was some underage drinking going on. But I'm not going to narc. Not going to narc. It just reminded me of the TST Sneaky Fox celebrations that were going on.
Yeah, except we did it when we lost, even harder than when we won.
True. We partied regardless. Oh man, that was just an amazing week. I'm gonna keep talking about it like until next season or until next year. All right. Rest of world, which I'm changing to round the world because we don't actually have Premier League anymore. So round the world quickly. These will be quick. Concacaf is Concacafing really hard this past week. Nicaragua was disqualified for the Gold Cup 1 week before the Gold Cup starts. They were in our group with Jamaica and the US. They got disqualified for kind of a Alejandro Zendejas situation where they basically played a guy who had not been, I don't know, officially naturalized, even though he had, been living in the country for forever. And so they're out. Like, I don't know how long this is gonna, affect them or how far back it goes, but yeah, Nicaragua out of the CONCACAF Gold Cup, which by the way starts on Saturday, I believe, with US Mexico in Chicago. Which I guess I'm gonna have to get to that one. Other sort of headlines: UEFA Nations League also came to a head. Spain beat Croatia. Spain, it doesn't feel like they're back quite like what they were back in the day, but they still get it done. Congrats to them. Congrats to Croatia too, by the way. They just keep on.
Modric, 37.
They're just like
and in extra time, he's recovering in his own box,
running his ass off, right?
Outside the foot, intercepted pass, Croatia goes the other way. And then second overtime, he's he sees things that other players just don't see. So age is a number.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, he's competing in this, and then if he came to MLS in 6 months, people would be like, "Oh, it's a retirement league." Yeah. It's like, okay, well, what do you guys want?
And by the way, he made his penalty in the shootout, and I heard a stat while I was watching. He's never missed
in a shootout.
Penalty in a shootout, which that guy is incredible. Quick, a couple other headlines. So the FA actually changed the rules. I don't know if this was related to Brexit or not, but they're allowing more overseas players to register for English teams moving forward. So that's a great news, a bit of news for MLS players and USL players and young guys from around here and women who want to go play in England. So good news there. Sean Crimmins on Instagram asked about the situation involving Chelsea. And so basically it's come out that Chelsea is, first of all, they've been in sort of hot water with financial fair play for a long time, and it's sort of coming to a head this summer. And it sounds like what they're going to do, there's all these rumors that, and Conte is already gone sold to Saudi Arabia. It sounds like they're like on the verge of selling basically half their bench to Saudi Arabian clubs. And so the talk there is whether there's something nefarious going on, because the PIF, the fund, the Saudi Arabian sovereign wealth fund, is number one, they own a stake in Clear Lake, which is who bought Chelsea this past year. they also obviously have a huge stake in the Saudi Arabian league. So they're basically wondering if there's something nefarious going on with, Chelsea selling these players allegedly for exorbitant fees, which helps Chelsea, also helps the Saudi Arabian league, get their raise their profile as they want to do. I don't know. What do you, Mitch? Do you think this is just a bridge too far in the conspiracy theory realm?
I haven't looked at the books yet. That's my next week's project. I don't know, man. It's been a lot of speculation and kind of talk about sports washing from Saudi Arabia. I think each individual move and news piece that comes out about sports in Saudi Arabia each have subtext to them that is either uncomfortable to talk about or we don't know all the details of. So speculating on it is probably not the most responsible thing, but I do think it signals a change in the tide, and the repercussions of that will come. Rest assured, the chickens will come home to roost. But we're going to see some weird shit happen here in the next like 6 months to 2 years, and you're going to have to take it in stride. I'm going to have to post on the internet about it, and we're all going to have to kind of look at the bigger picture at the end of the day and say, all right, well, is it a great brand of soccer? No, it's not, a heritage league over there, but they're going to be able to buy some players that you like. And I guess you're just going to have to buy a new jersey. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I really don't know about the whole situation.
Yeah, they got no shortage of money. That much is clear. Lastly, on Round the World, Bournemouth, ruthless Bournemouth. So they fired what was his name, Scotty Parker, back in August when they got off to a really tough start. This was a team that everybody thought was going to get relegated from the Premier League this year, and Gary O'Neill stepped in and basically saved them. I mean, they had an incredible season considering the amount of money that they did not spend coming up from the championship last year. And his reward for, pretty much an incredible season was to get sent packing. He just got fired by Bournemouth, who brought in the manager of Rayo Vallecano from Spain, Andoni Iraola. So just Bournemouth, ruthless move, which, to be fair, that's what you absolutely got to do if you want to stick around the Premiership. Okay, stoppage time. We'll put a bow on this episode. We're going to start with Ivan Toney's best bets. Overtrain is back up and cooking after Zambia and Ivory Coast kept on keeping on. I thought Ivory Coast was going to be the one that was carrying the load there. Nope, Zambia did all 3 goals for them, but don't matter. That's the thing about overs. It doesn't matter as long as somebody scores. So I'm going to stick on the overtrain. But first, Mitchell, do you want to start us off here?
Yeah, we'll go. So my last somewhat ill-advised parlay hit, it was just Canada money line and US money line. You did like plus 330. Didn't overthink that one, so now I'm going to overthink this one. All of these are for Euro qualifying games that are tomorrow, which is the 20th from when we're recording this. So they might be, you got to Sam put this out before 2:45.
It's a good reward for the people who listen early. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be Holland to score against Cyprus because obviously Portugal spread and Austria, Sweden, both teams to score. It's at plus 400. Austria, Sweden, I like over as well. But Portugal, Iceland, you get Portugal at minus 1.5, and I just like that.
Yeah, I love the Holland to score. Coming off that loss to Scotland, which was ridiculous.
That was,
by the way,
crazy.
Yeah,
that was an insane game. They gave up 2 goals in the last 5 minutes to lose to Scotland, which they're going to be, and that was a huge game for them for Euro qualifying. So they're going to come out hot against Cyprus. So that's a great call.
Goal differential matters, so maybe you take him to score 2 goals. Who knows?
If you're feeling frisky. Now, Brad, do you want to throw one out, or you want me to go?
No, you.
Okay. So listen, Overtrain is cooking. We are back on the tracks. I'm going to keep it going here. Liga MX is back. We got Pachuca and Tigres on, I think it's Sunday. Yes, Sunday, 3 o'clock Central. Pachuca and Tigres. That game has goals written all over it. Both those teams score. Pachuca doesn't play much defense, I don't think. So this game is over. Write it in stone, write it in pen. That's just free money. Okay, now do you have one, or do you want to go on as to GOAWs? All right, GOAWs time. Everybody knows everybody's favorite segment here. Now, Mitch, do you wanna start us off, or Brad,
Yeah.
you got one ready to go?
I don't have one. You guys go.
Okay.
Yeah, I got you. I got two. One of them is Twitter user Sancho Season, who has compiled a list of all the adjectives that Fabrizio uses in his communications when he's talking about transfers. And they just get increasingly more sexual as it goes down. There's seducing, edging, flirting, prioritizing, considering, following, discussing, monitoring, and it's just a beautiful list of words, and she adds one every single time he uses a new one. It's just a great bit that I've kept up with for quite some time. And then my other one is BJ Callahan, because we've never seen a new manager bump in such an amazing and American fashion. He has to be riding the high of this, and I hope he gets to ride that high into the Gold Cup and see some success there as well. When Gregg takes over afterwards, BJ Callahan will have one of the shortest yet most successful tenures as a U.S. men's national team head coach ever. And that's something that man can hang his hat on forever. So good on you, BJ.
Seriously, he should. I think I saw this in a tweet. He should just quit now, and he would go down as, First of all, we have a coach. It's not like he's leaving us hanging, right?
He's not leaving you high and dry.
Right. He should quit now, or at least say, you know what? No, I want to be assistant. I want to be assistant coach. Gregg, come on in, take over. He would be the most loved coach of the U.S. men's national team in history, and he will never be usurped. Like he's the man.
He's got to be like the fun uncle in the camp, right? Like, Brad, speak to this, but assistant coaches, there's a hard ass, there's the training guy, and then there's like there's the vibes guy, right? BJ strikes me as the fun uncle of the assistant coaches.
Yeah, he's like I don't know. I guess when we had Jimmy as an assistant coach, I mean, I got to play with Jimmy and Champions League winner, and then he becomes an assistant coach, and you're like, I can't take this guy serious. But he's always in the locker room with the guys. None of the other coaches are, and you're just joking around. And I can't imagine all of a sudden he's named head coach, and you're like, I can't look at you.
Right.
And start laughing.
Yeah, that's like that. That was one of the questions I asked Nick Pereira, another Sneaky Fox FC guy, when he was on the pod last week, because he was a player manager for several years of the Tacoma Stars. I was like, so how do the guys, they just like stop texting you on Friday nights? And he was like, well, listen, I had a kid right around the same time, so I stopped going out anyway. So actually, it was a very diplomatic answer, as Nick is wont to do. Now I gotta go. Brad, you want me to go?
You go, yeah.
Okay, so mine is, I had BJ Callahan written down as one of my possibilities, because you can't have a week like that and not get a little Sam's Army silverware. I'll also give a shout out or honorable mention to Gio Reyna, because coming into this situation, the kid's 20 years old. There's so much going on. Like, I can't even imagine. There's the behind the scenes between the Reynas and the Berhalters. Like, that's obviously just a situation I can't even wrap my head around. And he showed up to camp, obviously ready to work. He had the new hairdo, and he put in 2 shifts and looked great. We didn't even give him credit for that pass to Balogun. Like, Balogun's finish was amazing, but Gio's, the waiting on that pass was just immaculate. So shout out, honorable mention to him. I'll give my actual Goa to Spencer Ritchie, who is, I think PMT does the hot seat cool throne thing. Spencer is completely off the hot seat now, because he got basically chipped from half field in the Fire versus Columbus game, which I would argue, in his defense, he's Sam Pham, he's not GKU, not really his fault. His teammate gave up the ball, and he was he was out as a goalkeeper usually is. But who was it, Miller for DC United?
Tyler.
Yeah, Tyler Miller. He got that goal by who I think was Pablo Ruiz for RSL. Was way better than Zeller Ryan's for Columbus. I mean, what a hit. And it basically, first of all, everybody knew that Miller was going to get chipped at some point. Like, I think even Wayne Rooney was talking about how it's probably going to
Yep.
happen.
He had called it like 3 weeks in advance. He says, that's the way I want my keeper to play. He's going to get lofted at some point, and it's just going to happen.
Yeah, so I played with Tyler, and me and Chad Marshall was my roommate, and we just pick on Tyler so much. So I just texted at 5:56 p.m. I said, Tyler, and Saturday, 7 o'clock, he said, yikes. That's how we left. No other words needed to be said.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. I mean, it was a great hit. But yeah, that's my go is actually Spencer Ritchie for being completely off the hot seat, because now there's no, first of all, we were going to have to see that. He was going to have to see that highlight, over and over for, at least a few months, but now it's completely off anybody's mind. So there's mine.
Okay.
Brad,
I got these cool photos in for the qualifying for the 2014 World Cup, and we just moved back into the house, and I haven't hung them up yet. But here's one. So they're all done by like these local cool artists. Oh no, I gotta take that off. How do you do that?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Home of the Brave. That's awesome.
That's sick.
Rad, right? So that was Kansas City. Pretty cool. And then I got 2 more. This one I really like.
Look,
USA Honduras.
Sick, right?
Sandy, Utah.
Yeah, that was against Honduras there. That was a good game, actually. It was a cool game. And then this one kind of looks like me, actually.
USA Panama, June 11th, 2013. Seattle, in Seattle.
All done by artists, and U.S. Soccer just did like such a killer job, and they gave them to all the players.
Nice.
And I don't know if anyone else kept them. I don't know, but I framed them up, and I thought that they were really sick. So hats off to the artists. I don't even know who these people are. I can't find them anywhere. Their signatures. I don't even know how to contact them. But
I know you'd have to like go back through U.S. Soccer, whoever was, the person in charge of that. They'd probably be the only person who knows. That's awesome though. That's a great keepsake. And there we go. Brad, you're the man, by the way. I was going to say, like, watching sort of you in your element with Sneaky Fox, like, you're just a presence. You're a locker room presence. People just sort of gravitate to you and follow you. It was great to see you, out on the field. I know you were carrying a little niggling, injury, but you
something to work towards for next year, though.
Exactly. Yeah. You got a goal in mind. But no, it was awesome to see you out there. And you're great on the podcast. I really hope you would consider maybe coming back on, because it's great to get your.
But to tell the fans, like we went out to lunch one day, and Sam and Aaron texted like, "Where are you guys?" And me and Lenny, of course, found like a organic juice bar. It was like rice bowls, and the hair stood up on Sam's neck when he walked in the building. I could see it. Like,
what the fuck am I gonna eat here? It's all quinoa and fucking kale.
I can't even pronounce quinoa.
There's nothing for me here.
They don't have that in Chicago.
They don't. Thank God. That's why I always give him shit about being a militant vegan. I don't even know. Are you like, I know you eat everything. Yeah,
I eat everything. I had pizza for lunch.
Okay.
You
were in your player mode. You were in your player mode, right? Yeah.
When you're trying to perform and you're like, I got to do everything I can at 38 to play 10 minutes. I need a green juice.
That's understandable. I knew I wasn't going to be performing on or off the field. So I was just, looking for a burger and fries, as I usually am. But no, thank you for coming on. It's great. It's always great to have you. Mitch, thank you. You're just the man, as you always know. And everybody else, thank you for listening. We will be back next week, and Gregg Berhalter will still be the coach. So let's just get on board with this and start moving forward. Cheers, guys.